What's up, y'all? Welcome back to WBC Central. This is Sean Spradling. Let's talk about the Classic. So we have a lot of news and content to go over today. I thought we could do all the news that was released and reported on between episode 1 that we did a couple days ago and today, which surprisingly, there was a lot of news. And then we'll go over the new Fox betting odds for the WBC. Not necessarily like power rankings, but we'll see what the betting odds are for the WBC this year. And then we're going to do some Q&A. I put out a tweet asking for any questions that y'all had that you'd like to cover on the podcast, and got a lot of responses, a lot of really great questions. So we'll see how many of those that we can get through on the podcast today. So, but first, wanted to start with, check out this shirt. This custom WBC shirt, Shohei Ohtani. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. World Baseball Classic. Woo! We're still waiting on a lot of the official merch to be released on like MLB's website and on New Era's website. But my guy Cactus Cook on Twitter had the hookup. He makes custom t-shirts for the Angels and made this Shohei Ohtani Samurai Japan shirt. So Shohei Ohtani up here, Team Japan down here with the World Baseball Classic logo. It's fire. So definitely check him out on Twitter. His Twitter handle is at Curtis Cook _. So his name is Cactus Cook. So love the custom shirts that he does. But yeah, let's get into the news for the WBC and like international baseball. So first, not necessarily WBC related. It's like adjacent to the WBC, but the Caribbean series just started today. So there are 8 different teams that compete this year in the Caribbean series. The Winter League champions from Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Cuba, Curacao, Panama, and Colombia. So a ton of fun. Definitely go check it out. It is being held in Venezuela. There's two different stadiums. One is in Caracas. I don't know where the other one is. I don't remember the city, but they're beautiful stadiums with a beautiful mountain and ocean view for the 2 different stadiums. So definitely go check it out. I put the link to be able to watch it online if you'd like to on my Twitter. Otherwise, if you're subscribed to ESPN Plus, it'll be there as well. But on to the actual WBC news. So we did confirm a couple dates for the WBC. February 7th, official rosters for the World Baseball Classic are due. They are due for the teams to turn in. Every country must turn in a 30-man official roster for the World Baseball Classic. February 9th, 2 days later, a week from now on Thursday, is when the rosters are actually going to be announced publicly. And so we don't know exactly how it's going to be released, how they're going to be announced, but that is when we'll probably find out a lot more about the teams. So February 7th, they're due. February 9th, they're released. A couple player updates on different teams, different national teams for the WBC. Sal Frelick, the number 2 prospect, and I believe number 30 overall prospect in baseball, number 2 prospect for the Brewers, outfielder for the Brewers. He is committed to Italy. He's going to be playing for Italy. His grandparents, I believe, are Italian. So he's eligible for Italy. He will be playing for the Italian team per JP Morosi on Twitter. So that's honestly a huge commitment. He's a really high-end prospect. So I'm really excited to see him join that team. That team is looking really solid with a lot of youth. Honestly, you got guys like Vinny Pasquantino and Nicky Lopez from the Royals. Both of the Fletcher brothers, both Dominic and David Fletcher, Max Stassi behind the plate. And then one of the biggest names for sure on the team so far is Brandon Nimmo. He'll be center fielder for Italy. So really solid looking team right now. Still got a couple holes to fill. I'll try to put the graphics up on the YouTube page if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, you can go to my Twitter. I have in the pinned tweet, I have all of the different preliminary rosters in a thread there. So Sal Frelick for Italy. For Team USA, we did confirm that Jason Adam is listed on the 50-man preliminary roster, so we don't know if he's going to make the final roster yet. We won't know until February 9th, but he is on the preliminary roster. He could also be on that 8-man taxi squad of pitchers who have the potential to sub into the tournament if he doesn't make the official 30-man. So those are two big names that we've heard the last few days that are on preliminary rosters for the WBC. Another big piece of news for the Classic is Czech baseball actually released their documentary about their journey to the WBC. I mentioned it in the first episode. It's called Little Country, Big Dreams, I believe. It's on their YouTube channel. Definitely go check it out. It's super cool. This is one of honestly, the coolest storylines in the World Baseball Classic because they've never qualified for the WBC, and they all of their players are homegrown. They all play in the domestic league. So it's going to be a ton of fun to see. I don't expect them to do too much or accomplish a ton in the World Baseball Classic because unfortunately they are in the same pool in Pool B with both Japan and Korea, who are very strong this go around. So yeah, maybe they could sneak out a win against like China or Australia, depending on how those matchups look. But go check out that documentary. And then for some not so great WBC news. So in the last few days, we've found some information about the Dominican Republic roster. There was some reports from a couple different sources on Twitter, and I believe it was officially announced by Nelson Cruz that there was a list of 18 players on the 50-man preliminary roster for the Dominican Republic. That list was of 18 players was submitted to the league with all of those players had objections from their team to play in the World Baseball Classic. Now, a couple pieces of clarifying points. That doesn't mean that they're not going to play. We don't know who those players are. Most of those players on the 18, like the list of 18, I'm sure are injury related. So in that sense, it makes sense why the teams would be hesitant to allow them to play. The players do have an option to file an appeal if they'd like to play, unless they qualify for like the chronic injury list, which means that you spent like over 60 days of the previous professional season on the IL, which a couple of these players, they do qualify for. But because of that, the 18 players, there was a lot of like speculation about who could be on the list. And then in the next couple of days, yesterday, and then actually just some breaking news within minutes before I started recording, Hector Gomez tweeted this out. But we know 3 names that are not going to be playing for Dominican Republic in the WBC, unfortunately. And they're all 3 starting pitchers, which is brutal for them because that was one of their strongest suits, the strongest parts of their team. So the 3 names that have been announced that won't be playing for the Dominican Republic are Luis Castillo, starting pitcher for the Mariners, Freddy Peralta, starting pitcher for the Brewers, and then just a couple minutes ago, it was just tweeted out that Luis Severino also will not be playing. Now, that one was a little bit more expected because he was hurt for so long last year. Even though they were all 3 on the 50-man preliminary roster, I didn't expect Severino to play. Luis Castillo, I did expect to play. So that one's a pretty big bummer because he would have easily been one of the best pitchers on Team DR and in the entire tournament. Freddy Peralta is also kind of a big loss. Now, granted, DR still has a ridiculous pitching staff. They have, for their 3 top starters, they still have Sandy Alcantara, they have Framber Valdez, and Christian Javier. So those top 3 are right up there with Japan for the best in the tournament. So this doesn't necessarily drop them in like what my power rankings would be necessarily, but it does mess with their depth a lot. I don't necessarily trust them to be able to go as deep into games, but we'll see. Their bullpen is also still very solid. Brian Abreu, Camilo Doval, Sir Anthony Dominguez. They have a lot of incredible arms in the bullpen with those top 3 starters. So pitching depth is lacking a little bit now, and it's really unfortunate that all 3 of those guys will not be playing. 2 of those guys were due to injury, both Freddy Peralta and Luis Severino. Luis Castillo, Jerry Dipoto just came out and said like they made a mutual decision that he just wasn't going to play and focus on spring training. So I'm not sure if that was like uh, if he. I mean, I'm sure he wanted to play. There's not really any doubt that he wanted to play for the Dominican Republic, but it's just unfortunate that he's not going to be able to. So for whatever reason. But that kind of leads me into the next section I wanted to talk about, which is the Fox betting odds that came out a few days ago. So Fox released their updated betting odds for the World Baseball Classic. And there was also some betting odds at the very beginning of the year, early January, I believe, or even late December, I don't remember, that came out. And they're pretty different, these most recent one from this week versus the ones previously. I'll try to show a list of each of them as well on YouTube for you to see and compare them. But if I go down the list, actually, I'll start from 20. Let's start 20 and then go up to 1 in the Fox betting odds for the World Baseball Classic. So 20th, Great Britain. 19, China. 18, Israel. 17, Czech Republic. 16, Nicaragua. 15, Australia. 14, Panama. 13, Italy. 12, Taiwan. 11, Canada. So I'll stop there and then we'll do the top 10 right after this. So Great Britain, China, Israel, Czech Republic, Nicaragua, Australia, Panama, Italy, Taiwan, Canada. I wouldn't say there are a ton of surprises there. That is pretty much what I would assume would be the bottom 10 in the betting odds. Now, the difference here, and something I'd like to clarify, I guess, because when this was posted online on Twitter and across socials, people were really confused, I guess, or got it mixed up with power rankings, which they're not power rankings. Power rankings is just top to bottom, the best teams to the worst teams. This is different because it takes into consideration more than just the team talent, but it also takes into consideration what pool the players, the teams are in. So, for example, let's see, Great Britain at number 20. I do not at all think that they're the 20th best team in the Classic. I have them much higher than that, maybe like 15th, 14th, or maybe 15th, 14 to 16, I would say, in the power rankings of the WBC. But the hard part is they are in Pool C with the USA, with Canada, Mexico, and Colombia. So that's a very, very difficult and competitive pool. I don't see there really being much of an opportunity for them to make it out of the pool stage, even though they do have a bunch of solid players, not only British-born players, but British Americans like Harry Ford and Matt Koperniak, and then also they have the Bahamian players and players from like the British Virgin Islands. So it's a really good mix of players. The Bahamian players are really, really good. And I like the roster a lot. It'll be a lot like their qualifier roster. We don't know exactly which players will make the final roster yet, but I do like the potential that Great Britain has going forward. But I guess it makes sense that they have really low odds in that pool. I still wouldn't have them at 20, but in Pool C with the US and Mexico and Colombia and Canada, that's a gauntlet. That is very hard to make it out of the pool. You got like maybe Israel. I wouldn't have them as low either. They're 18th, but again, they're in what people on Twitter call the pool of death. They're in Pool D with Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and Nicaragua. So that's going to be insanely hard to even just scratch out a win, let alone make it out of the pool round. So makes sense, I guess, why they're so low. Let's do the top 10. So top 10, at 10, we have Colombia, 9, Netherlands, 8, South Korea, 7, Cuba, 6, Mexico. So I'll do the 10 to 6 for now, and then we'll leave the top 5 after this. So Colombia, Netherlands, Korea, Cuba, Mexico. Now, Mexico is the one I definitely want to point out here because I have been really harping on this since I started covering the World Baseball Classic. I do not think that people realize how talented their team is and how many um, how much like MLB talent and experience that they have on the team. So if you look at their roster, across the whole diamond, they're going to have a full MLB lineup. You got guys like Alex Verdugo, Luis Gonzalez, both Urias brothers, Luis and Ramon, Isaac Paredes, Joey Meneses, Alejandro Kirk, and Randy Arozarena. So that's like the projected starting lineup for Mexico. And top to bottom, that is there's a bunch of solid hitters in there. A couple Gold Glove winners. Randy Arozarena, who a lot of people don't realize is on Team Mexico. He defected from Cuba when he came, when he left Cuba to play baseball elsewhere. He ended up in Mexico, became a Mexican citizen, and he himself said, like, I want to represent Mexico because of how much it means to me to be a Mexican, to be here, to be a Mexican citizen. I want to be able to represent this country. So he's going to be starting in the outfield for them. The rest of them are Mexican born, I believe, with the exception of a few players on the bench. And like Alex Verdugo, I believe, was born in the US. And for example, Marcelo Meyer, born in California, his parents are Mexican, from Mexico. You got if you look at the pitching rotation, Julio Urias, Patrick Sandoval, Taijuan Walker, and Jose Urquidy, that is an incredibly deep, very solid pitching rotation for the WBC. In the Classic, a lot of these teams aren't going to have the deepest rotations. A lot of these national teams, but this is definitely one of the stronger ones in the tournament. Their bullpen is also very solid. Unfortunately, they won't have Andres Munoz because of his injury as well last year. He would have been a great addition to the bullpen. And the other missing piece in the bullpen is Roberto Osuna, who was their projected closer for the Classic. But Alejandro Kirk and Joey Meneses, those are some of their biggest hitters, as well as Randy Arozarena. So I'm really glad that they jumped up to 6, because in the last betting odds that were posted, they were 10th. And I did not at all think that they were out of the top like 6 or so. So really like Mexico. Cuba, want to point out as well, at 7. That sounds about right for me, because they have MLB players, but not a lot. They have a couple really solid bats. The starting pitching is a little bit lacking, but they have very solid bullpen arms. So there's some holes, but holistically, I think they'll do definitely well enough to hit their way and give themselves an opportunity to get out of the pool in Pool A. That's the most like even pool across the board. There aren't really any like standout teams that are much better than the rest. I would say all 5 have a very legit chance to get out of Pool A. So I can see Cuba doing it. Yeah, so there's a couple teams I want to highlight. Korea, honestly, I think might be a little low. I would prefer, or too low. They're at 8. I would prefer them maybe around the 6 to maybe about 6 range. Also a very, very solid team with a very solid domestic league. For those that don't know the KBO, it's probably the 3rd best baseball league in the world. Let's go to the top 5, because that's where things get super, super interesting, especially now with those pitchers for the DR that are no longer going to be playing. So if you look at the top 5, starting at 5, Venezuela, 4, Puerto Rico, 3, Japan, 2, USA, and 1, Dominican Republic. And those top 2 have flipped from the first betting odds that were posted. The last time we saw it, the top 5 were Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Japan, same as it is now. But then it was DR 2, USA 1. Now we got USA 2, Dominican Republic 1. And I think that makes sense. I have been saying it all along, and I will continue saying it until we see the final rosters. I think this is a truly 1A, 1B scenario with the Dominican Republic and the US. Both have unbelievable lineups, all-stars and MVPs across the entire field. Both have incredible elite bullpens. The only difference that I see, even with these losses from the pitching staff, is that the Dominican Republic does have a higher end pitching rotation with Sandy Alcantara, Framber Valdez, and Christian Javier. So makes sense to me. At this point, I would probably still have Dominican Republic 1 and USA 2 with a razor thin margin between the two. On the 9th, when we see the official rosters released, I might flip that depending on who is on or who's left off the rosters, but we'll see for now. But the top tier for me is Dominican Republic, USA, and Japan. I think they have that right. Puerto Rico at 4 and Venezuela at 5. I actually before. How long ago was it? Probably, yeah. It was January 1st, I believe. It was on New Year's that I put out my first power rankings, and I'll put out another power rankings after the official rosters are released. I had Venezuela ahead of Puerto Rico, and now I'm not too sure because with Ronald Acuna not playing and Wilson Contreras not playing, it is going to be it is a very, very tough matchup. And they're both in Pool D. So I am so excited to see how that pool kind of shapes up, because I could see them both having a very solid chance of making it out of the pool stage. I have one of them making it out with the Dominican Republic. Initially, I said Venezuela and DR. Now I might be leaning Puerto Rico and DR because their lineup is still very, very good. Their starting pitching is decent, but their bullpen is one of the best bullpens in the entire tournament. With the Diaz brothers, both. You have. Let me get their roster pulled up real quick. 1 second. If you look at the bullpen, Alexis Diaz, Edwin Diaz, Jorge Lopez, Michael Givens, Seth Lugo, Joe Jimenez, and Emilio Pagan. Those are all very, very solid bullpen arms. With the starting pitchers of Jose Barrios, their ace. Marcus Stroman is also committed. So we'll see what the rest of their roster looks like. We'll see who actually is able to play for Venezuela. Hopefully they do get a full strength team. It just does not look like Acuna or Wilson Contreras are going to be playing. And those are two huge losses in the lineup. So yeah, that is the betting odds for the for the WBC. They're interesting. I want to put out my a new power rankings so that we can actually look at what teams I think are better than other teams rather than just who has the better chance at making it out of the pool stage. Because in the Classic, any team can make it out. Honestly, there's so much luck and just streakiness involved in this kind of tournament. With a round robin first pool stage, and then after that it's single elimination. So if you just get one team that's hot, there can easily be upsets. So yeah, I thought they were interesting. I thought that y'all would like to hear what those were and kind of read over those. So, and last thing I wanted to go over today is the Q&A. So posted that tweet asking for y'all to give your questions, any opinion, any questions that you wanted to have on the podcast, WBC or just baseball related, international baseball, whatever you want to ask about. Honestly, it'll be fine. We'll go over as many of these as we can in the allotted time that we have. So question 1 from my boy Noah Berger on Twitter. Will you be there? And if no, why not? So I really, really want to go to the WBC. I'd love to make it for honestly any game. I prefer to go for the later rounds. As of right now, if you were to ask me, I don't think I will be there. But that's just right now. I'm still trying to figure out if there's a way for me to get off of, have enough time off of work and find some money to to fly down to Miami. I'd love to be in Miami for maybe the later rounds or even the pool stage. That would be great as well. If I was in Phoenix, that'd be fun. That'd be awesome. But yeah, definitely trying to get down there. We'll see if I'm able to work that out. Let's see. Which nation's domestic baseball scene stands to gain the most if their team goes on a deep run in the WBC? This is a question from Ethan Pachersky, one of my good friends on Twitter as well. Which nation's domestic baseball scene has the most to gain? I think my mind goes first to a couple different teams, and those are the European teams. For example, like Czech Republic and Great Britain and Italy. A lot of these countries do already have a very established baseball foundation. A lot of the Latin American countries, and of course the East Asian countries, they have very solid, very established baseball leagues and baseball culture. Whereas places like Great Britain and Italy, not so much. They're still very new to baseball, relatively, relative to a lot of these different countries. So I would say if Great Britain were able to make a run, or Israel, or Italy, or Czech Republic, those are all countries that are really trying to ignite their baseball presence right now. And I think with the London series, the MLB also wants to focus on Europe and try to expand into Europe. So think if any of those countries were to make a Cinderella run, kind of like Israel did in the last WBC, I think it'd be good for MLB and baseball in general, in those countries. So let's see. Here's another question from @brain_SFC on Twitter. Your thoughts on the Japanese starting pitchers? They absolutely rock in NPB, but how would that power translate when facing MLB all-star hitters? Oh, that is a fantastic question. And I think the easiest way to answer that is to a quote from Shohei Ohtani comes to mind when I read that question. When asked who he thinks is the best player on Team Japan, he said that he does not think that he himself is the best player on the Japanese team, which took everybody by surprise. I don't necessarily agree, and I don't think a lot of people probably do. But the fact that Ohtani said that there are players on the team that are better than him, I think speaks volumes about what we are going to see and what we should expect from Samurai Japan in the World Baseball Classic. So if you look at the projected rotation for Samurai Japan, the top pitchers: Shohei Ohtani, Yu Darvish, both in MLB, both very well-known names in the US. And then you got two guys that MLB fans probably do not know as well, but are two of the best players in recent years in the NPB: Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Roki Sasaki. Yamamoto has been the best pitcher in the NPB for years now, and Roki Sasaki is like the new hot stuff. Like everybody loves Roki Sasaki. Throws over 100 miles per hour. Had almost 2 straight perfect games, which we can talk about when we talk about Samurai Japan. This last year, he almost threw 2 straight perfect games in a row. It was ridiculous. But a lot of people think that is the guy that Ohtani's talking about when he's saying that he doesn't think he's the best player. He thinks that another player is. They think that he's talking about Roki Sasaki. So I would not at all be surprised if we see Yamamoto and Sasaki absolutely dominate a lot of these different lineups in the Classic. Even the US, I think they have a really strong chance to do well against, because it's a foreign style of play. Like these pitchers have not seen these hitters, but even more importantly, the hitters haven't seen these pitchers. And there's not much of an opportunity for the US lineup or the DR lineup to actually study the pitching style or the repertoire of these Japanese pitchers, because they have the MLBs, they have their own MLB season to focus on. So I'd be surprised if a lot of these Japanese pitchers do not really really well in this tournament. Let's see, what other questions? Which team are you most excited to see in the WBC? From Tyler Smith, also my good friend from college. Shout out Tyler Smith. So, team I'm most excited to see, I think. So, as most of you all probably know, I am American. I root for Team USA. So I think that's probably my most excited team, the team I'm most excited to see Mike Trout in the US jersey, to see Mookie Betts out there, Kyle Tucker, and to see Goldschmidt and Arenado on the corners again, Trey Turner, Jeff McNeil and Tim Anderson, Real Muto behind the plate. It's just going to be so much fun to see them wearing the red, white, and blue. I think other teams that I'm excited to see, I think that Mexico is super underrated. I'm really excited to see the team that they put together, because I think this is going to be the best Mexican national team that we've ever seen. Really excited to see the Cuban team because they now are able to have MLB players. The Korean team, I'm also very excited to see. Lee Jung-hoo, a lot of MLB fans do not know that name. They absolutely will after this WBC. He's going to be coming over to MLB in 2024, and I'm confident he'll be an all-star. Look up his highlights on YouTube. He's ridiculous. He just won the MVP in the KBO last year. Then a couple of the, I guess, lower tier teams. I'm honestly really excited to see Great Britain. I love Harry Ford. Seeing him in the qualifiers, he just absolutely mashed against the competition in Germany, and I think he'll probably do the same. He's one of the top prospects in baseball. He's either 1 or 2 in the Mariners organization overall prospects right now. So super excited to see him and that team. And then maybe not the most excited team, but I'm just really, really intrigued to see what China's team is going to look like, because we know nothing about that roster. The only player that has been announced, and he announced it himself, not even officially from the Chinese team, is Ju Quan, one of the pitchers in the KBO. He's the only person, the only player that said they are on Team Japan. So really intrigued to see what that team is going to look like. Also, I'll put a picture on my on the YouTube as well. They had the best glow up in logo, like hat design of any team in the WBC. So I really want to see them at least win like 1 or 2 games, because the design with the dragon turned into the sea for China is just so sick. I think it's probably my favorite logo of any of the hats in the WBC. So let's see any other questions that we can cover. Will Acuna be on the taxi squad, or is he out of the WBC as a whole? I don't expect him to be on the taxi. Well, he's not going to be on the taxi squad. I believe the taxi squad is actually only 4 pitchers, but I don't think he'll be on the Venezuelan roster either. They made it pretty clear that he will not be playing on the team. Let's see. What are the chances Italy gets some more bats? Well, in the last few days, they just got Sal Frelick. That's a big bat, honestly, pretty high-end prospect. I still think that there's a chance to get Anthony Rizzo. That'd be awesome if they got like someone like Joey Gallo, but I do expect maybe there to be a good chance that Anthony Rizzo plays. Brandon Nimmo's also just a massive bat. Unfortunately, Trey Mancini won't be playing. He was pretty big too. Vinny Pasquantino, incredible bat in the lineup. Absolutely mashes. So that'll be fun to see. Let's see. Is there any hope regarding Jazz Chisholm playing for Great Britain? Reckon the Marlins might budge. There's a chance. They haven't officially said that he won't be playing for Great Britain, but it's not looking likely, because he's changing position. He's going from middle infield to center field. I think they're going to want him in the in spring training the full time for him to get used to that position. But yeah, I don't really expect him to see him. Let's see what else. Your biggest sleeper in this tournament that could win it, and why? Biggest sleeper in the 2023 WBC. Looking at the list right now. That is tough. I'm going to say honestly, and I've talked about them multiple times, I think the biggest sleeper right now for this WBC is Mexico. I think they have a very legitimate shot at making it far in the tournament. Their pitching is incredible. They're hitting throughout the lineup. They got guys that can get on base. Alejandro Kirk got some power. Joey Meneses just absolutely broke out this last year. I really, really like that team, and I think that they should come out of Pool B with the USA. Colombia definitely can, and Canada could as well, but I expect it to be Mexico at this point. We'll see what the final roster looks like, but I think that they have a shot to go pretty far in the tournament, and people don't expect that because they haven't, I guess, accomplished a ton in previous WBCs. So definitely don't sleep on them. Last question. Do you think Aaron Judge will be on Team USA? From Jason on Twitter. I don't think so. There's no way to know right now until February 9th, because there has been no information whatsoever one way or another. The latest information we had on Judge in the WBC was back in like a September, when Bryce Harper was still trying to recruit him, when Bryce Harper was still on the team. So a lot of people speculated that he would sign his contract, and then after that was done, that he would commit to Team USA. That hasn't happened. I also haven't seen any interviews with him talking about it, or anyone talking to him or asking him about playing for Team USA. So I don't expect it. It'd be a huge surprise, and a very pleasant surprise if he did choose to play for Team USA. But yeah, thank you so much for the questions. I'm going to try to get to more of these. Maybe I can try to go more rapid fire next time. I didn't go too fast this time. I kind of dragged them out. But thank you so much for the questions. We'll do this again probably every episode. So yeah, definitely look out for the tweet where I'm going to ask for some Q&A questions. But that is going to do it for episode 2 of WBC Central. If you have any questions or need anything, feel free to reach out to me on YouTube or Twitter or TikTok. On Twitter, I am at Shawn_Spradling, SHAWN_SPRADLING. On TikTok, I'm just at Shawn Spradling. And then all of these links will be in like a link tree in my bio of my socials. So feel free to check out the YouTube channel or my TikToks, as well as the Twitter. So yeah, I think that was a successful episode 2. Let me know if you have any questions or what you want to talk about next time. Next week, I will be doing an episode that will release on Tuesday morning and Friday morning. I think that's what we're going to do from now on, 2 episodes a week. So you can be expecting Tuesday morning and Friday morning for your commute to work to have WBC Central content. So next Thursday is when the rosters are finalized and announced. So hopefully we'll have some information on those. But other than that, y'all have a great night or morning, whenever you're listening to this.